all right. Grab you a seat, grab your Bibles. How's everybody this morning? Good? All right. Well, y'all sounded so good backstage. I was back there. I told Dalton, I said, man, they sound good. Let's see what we got here. Are we on? If you have your Bibles, we're going to be in the book of Ephesians as our platform text. While I get this going here. Are we on? There it is. Well, welcome to the Grove. My name's Phillip. If you're visiting with us, I'm so glad that you're here. We started a series last week called Parenting is Hard, but we're going to continue with that. But tomorrow, a lot of kiddos start back to school. Parents, are you glad your kiddos are starting back to school? Yeah, a little bit, yeah. I'm not going to ask the kids because I don't know what they'll say. I'm sure it's a big no. But it starts back, and I want to tell you something that's really exciting. If you're a visitor here, you may not know this. If you've been coming for some time, you may know this. But regardless, you need to know this as a part of the Grove. We started a school. This will be our fourth year, called Legacy Christian Academy. And so we started her out of a dream. We've been talking about her for about 12, 13 years, just trying to work through it. And so 3 years ago, this coming up will be our fourth, we started Legacy Christian Academy. Let me give you some good news. This year, we are up 68% enrollment. Can you believe that? Unbelievable. Yeah, that's fantastic. Your efforts are working. And I know some people are like, private Christian school, why would you do that? Public school? Well, listen, I'm a fan of public schools as well. One doesn't have to suffer for the other. They can both exist at the same time, and that's what we've chosen to do. And we've chosen to minister to parents and their children in a unique way here in Roane County, and it is working. Let me tell you something else that's really cool too, because if you're part of the Grove, you're part of that mission. When we started this process, we had said, hey, listen, we want to be fully accredited. We want to be just like every other private Christian school that's moving and shaking and doing things. And so Ms. Spakes and her team started that process. And so they've been working through accreditation, and it's normally about a 3-year program. And so they started a little over 2 years ago, that program, or maybe less than that, actually. I don't know the exact number. But what I do know is this. We were preparing and have been preparing to have our full accreditation so that Legacy would be fully accredited either by the end of December or the 1st of January, which changes a whole bunch of things here at Legacy. But because of Ms. Spake's leadership, who is our principal, and because of our teachers, by the way, this year we're going to have 18 teachers at Legacy. That is unbelievable. We have more teachers at Legacy than I do have employees at the church as a whole, and it is fantastic. The mission is working. But they called us, and Ms. Spakes let me know this week, they've called us and said, because of your efforts and because of how well Legacy is doing and because of what your teachers are doing and her leadership, they have moved up our accreditation, and hopefully by mid-October we'll be fully accredited as a private Christian school. Isn't that fantastic? That is fantastic. Now, one day you'll look back and you'll remember I was jawing about a bunch of stuff called Legacy years ago, and it was 2026, and you may have clips of that, and you may not really fully understand today what you've bitten off, but I'm telling you, within the next 5 years, you're going to see something that is so fantastic. Not only has it transformed this hill and this campus and our church, it is literally going to transform our community. It already is, and so I'm so thankful for Legacy. I'm thankful for our public school teachers. We have so many of those that come here to the Grove too. We're praying for you as you head back to school. We got some that have some new jobs that have been promoted. I won't mention any names, but I'm super proud of a couple of folks that I know that got promoted this year in our public school system, because I didn't ask them if I could brag on them, but I'm bragging on you. You know who you are, and I think that's fantastic. Anyways, it's back to school. That's enough of that. I've had too much coffee this morning. So, this morning, we're going to continue with our series called Parenting is Hard. Now, let me tell you a couple of things as you find your place in Ephesians 4. What I said last week, and I've already preached this message this morning once, and it is, I think, really powerful, but it's moving, and it's hard. And it's hard for some people more than others as we look at it. Because parenting, when we start talking about parenting, whether you're here live, or you watch back this week, somebody that's online, or you look at the podcast, or whatever it is, when you start talking about parenting, it becomes a touchy subject. And it becomes a touchy subject for several reasons. I mentioned it last week. I'll probably say this every week that I'm doing this series. Because if you are a parent, it becomes touchy because you're doing your best. And it's hard to be a parent. And maybe you feel like, well, that feels accusatory. It's not. But sometimes it feels that way when we start talking about parenting. And then sometimes it becomes touchy because of the way you were parented or the absence thereof. And now what I'm asking you is to don't be touchy this morning. Let's dive in and see what's going on. This morning I've named my message, and here's how we're going to do this. I've got a couple of questions for you, a couple of statements and questions as we start. Then I have our platform text, which is Ephesians 4, I'm going to share with you. Then I'm going to give you a bulk of information, and then we're going to finish with some biblical principles on the way out. But here's, as we look at this and we think about parenting, the message this morning is called Forgiving Mom and Dad. Now, whether you know it or not, of all the places I could have started, and I've got different things that I'm working through that I want to make sure I preach. A lot of times people want to go straight to the parenting part. Whether you're parenting toddlers or teenagers or adult children, it's like, tell me how to relate to my children. And I feel like we live in a world that's got it all mixed up. Because a lot of times what we do is we jump to the do this without talking about the messenger. And the messenger's you. The place we have to start is within ourselves. The way you parent, the way you think, the way you act has all been driven in some way, shape, or form and shaped by those who raised you. Whether it was your parents, biological parents, step-parents, grandparents, guardians, whatever it might be, they shaped who you are now. And in most cases, what we want to do is we want to work on the process of parenting without talking about the parent. And a lot of times when we talk about the parent, we have to look at their parents. And in most cases, in a lot of ways, whether they were great or whether they were not so great, there's some things we need to forgive them of. In fact, some people in here within the sound of my voice, your greatest hurts in life came from your home. It came from your mom or your dad. And some within the sound of my voice, you're walking right in their footsteps after you said you wouldn't. Some in here, you've not sat down with your mom and dad for quite some time and talked to them because of hurt. You don't do holidays together. They don't see your grandbabies. And some of you, it's not by your choice, it's by theirs. But our families shape us. So this morning, as we talk about this, it is going to be tough at times, but I think very impactful. Because the only way we could ever become the parents that God expects us to become and our children need us to become is by looking where we came from. You say, well, I don't think my parents shaped me in any way, shape, or form. In fact, Phillip, I've changed. I've broke the cycle. Have you? Have you? Because sometimes we think we're breaking the cycle and you've made it worse. Because you went the complete opposite and you went in a way that you've never seen before and you're ad-libbing it and it's backfiring big time. And so what we have to do is begin to look and forgive parents and let God shape us into who He desires us to be. So, are you all ready for this? I don't know if you are, but I hope that you'll hang in here with me and we will walk through it together. Forgiving mom and dad, parenting is hard. This morning it's going to be tough, but we're going to walk through it together. I want to know where you came from. Who raised you, who poured into you, made you who you are. You don't have to accept that, but it's true. It's just like this. If you were born in Ireland and you lived in Ireland and you talked in Ireland, guess what? You're going to have an Irish accent. I got a good friend of mine. She was born in Scotland, lived in Scotland, lives in Roane County, Tennessee today. You speak to her for 5 seconds and you'll say she's from Scotland because her accent's there. If you moved him from up north and you're down here, down in South, we have an accent. We've worked really good on it. We cut vowels out, add consonants, and cut words in half. We say yonder, y'all, and things like that. And if you speak to us, we know what we're talking about. You may not. But if we speak to someone like us, we got it. Because it's where we came from. And sometimes, even down here in the South, we don't even use words anymore. We just make noises. We can say, yeehaw, and get a place fired up, right? We can grunt, and we understand. Because it's the way that you're raised. And you could put me in Washington State. You could put me in the Midwest somewhere. When I go to Arkansas to duck hunt, or if I'm out in North Dakota with some of my buddies duck hunting, or South Dakota hunting pheasants, I walk into a grocery store and pay for my coffee and my whatever I'm eating for the day, and they'll go, where are y'all from? What gave it away? It's not the way we're dressed. It's the way you talk, mister, right? And so it's where you are. So you may think that you've grown up. You may think you look different. But let me tell you something. Underneath all that exterior, you still have an accent. And that accent was given to you by your mom and dad. So we're going to talk about it this morning. And we're going to work through it. Now, y'all ready? Let's pray. God, I love you. I thank you so much this morning for your word. Thank you for your goodness and your grace. Thank you for the opportunity to be parents. Thank you for forgiveness. And thank you for futures. God, I pray for my friends that are here. They have no idea where we're headed, and I do. And it's going to be powerful for some. It's going to be hard for some. It's going to be freeing for others. Whatever it is that you do in this place this morning, would you make us better and help us? We love you in Jesus' name. Amen. A couple things I want to ask you or say to you before we get started is this morning. From an early age, the way you parent has been shaped by your parents. And what you do, you say, well, I'm nothing like them. They still shaped you. They shaped you and you became the opposite. So the way you parent, and we could take this further, we're just working in the context of parenting, but the way you interact with people, the way you live, it's been shaped by them. Your experiences, your hurts, and your successes have all shaped you into who you are. Now, the young people that are listening to me, teenagers, 20s, not married yet, you need to pay close attention. Because it doesn't matter what you do, what filter you use on social media, how much weight you lose, how much weight you gain, how you do your hair. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The moment that they hand you a baby and call you mama or daddy, you're going to fall right back into what raised you. You're going to fight it for some of us, and some of us are going to welcome it and become it. But it is shaping you. And it has shaped you. So the question I have, number one, is this: how did your parents do at parenting you? Don't answer that out loud. Some of you are going to say they did great. And that's awesome. And I'm thankful for it. Hopefully my children will say my dad and mom did really good. They made some mistakes. You know, it's easy to see the mistakes when you're coming up and you're looking for the person making the decision. It's always easy for the person that's working for the boss to tell you what the boss's problems are, right? Because the boss is making split decisions. And children can do that. But as we think about it, how do you think your parents parented you? What are their faults? What are their failures? This morning, we're going to talk about parents and the types of parents that we get. But I'm not talking about the good things this morning. I don't care what system you came out of. Most of the time, there's goods and bads. Sometimes the bads outweigh the goods, and sometimes the goods outshadow the bads. But for most of us, it's a hybrid. It's the bads that shape us the most, not the goods. It's the bads. And so this morning, we're going to talk about those. And so I ask you, how did your parents do parenting you? That's kind of a personal question, isn't it? Because some of you are going to go, not great, dude. Really? I don't know. Number next is this. How is your relationship with your parents now? For some people, that's a hard question. For some, it's an easy question. Now, this morning, I'm going to use me as the illustration most of the time because I don't get mad at me for using me as an illustration. And some of you are going to feel like, is he talking to me or about me? I'm not. But because it's so personal, it fits where you are. But here's the deal. For right now, me and my parents' relationship is really good. I said this last week, I think, and if I didn't, I meant to. My parents have become my friends. And so we have a different relationship than we've ever had in my whole life. I have found I'm at that age where I look after my parents like they looked after me. Right? I have to tell them, that's not a good idea, Mom. Or I have to tell my dad, would you please hang on to your gun and stop dropping it? I mean, he raised me when we're hunting. I'm like, you're dropping your gun again. This is not a good idea, right? You're going to blow my leg off. Come on, Dad. I'm having to look after them in different ways. I have to ask them questions that they used to ask me, like this. Did you take your medicine today? I got to ask them stuff like that. We have different relationships. But some of you in here have terrible relationships with your parents. You haven't been to holidays. You don't talk much. They don't know your grandkids. My biological father relationship is no good. We haven't even spoken in over 20 years. And before you start feeling bad for me, and if you just got me or just learning me, understand something. I've done everything I can to make that relationship right. I've forgiven him, and it's on him now. He's doing his thing, and it's okay. So don't pity me. Do not, okay? But I do use it as an illustration. Because some of you in here are in that same boat. and you think that you're going to be a great parent, and you think you're doing okay, and you probably are, but you have this huge vacuum because when you look the other way, you look at your children here and it's good, but you look here and your parent and child relationship is not good. It's going to affect you, and it affects you more than you know. It affects your children more than you know. And we're going to talk about that this morning. The blueprint for who and how you parent was laid by those you call parents. That's just a fact. And so you may have corrected some of that. You may have, embellished some of that. You may have done something completely different, but they are the blueprint for who you are. You can argue with that all day long, say, no, it isn't. It is. And then Ephesians tells us something. Now, the reason I started here this morning is because the greatest thing that we can do as parents is to forgive mom and dad where they failed us. And if you think that your parents didn't fail you at some point, you're probably mistaken. And I'm glad you have that mentality, but our parents are not perfect. I'm not a perfect parent. Mandy's not a perfect parent. I have failed my children at different times, and I hope that with time that they're not too bad messed up because of me. They might be, I don't know. And I hope with time that as they grow into the adults that God intends them to be, they will finally see their dad and their mom as not superheroes, but they would see them as people that are just trying to make it and doing the best they can and made mistakes. However, further down the line, some of us in here, and I want you to hear me very carefully, okay? You are carrying scars that mom and dad laid on you. There are men and women within the sound of my voice this morning. You have carried scars from the way they talked to you, the way that they raised you, how they punished you when they weren't there, the words they used. There are scars that we carry. There are scars that we walk with that have become the leverage point in our life. And in some ways, we try to overcorrect and become everything dad wasn't to me, or we end up falling right in line to what mom was that I hated about her, and here I am, I'm with her again. And we look back and we hold mom and dad in contempt. We live in a world where children, as they grow older, are really good at punishing their parents. I know of cases, and so do you, where daughter-in-law or daughter or son-in-law or son, they withhold their children from the grandparents because they're mad. They don't want grandma or grandpa too involved. I'm not going to let them go through what I went through. There's some that they would shield them from what happened to them. We hold things hostage. We don't make time for. And all of a sudden, we turn into parents and we think we can carry this unresolved forgiveness and be the best version of ourselves, and you can't. This is where it gets touchy. Because what we're talking about today is forgiving mom and dad. And you go, Phillip, they didn't ask for forgiveness. I know that. They don't even think they did anything wrong. I hear you. But what I'm telling you, and you can write this down, you can set your watch to it, you can look into the future, and trust me, I can be Sister Cleo if you want to and help you find your keys and tell you your future. But I'm telling you right now, as long as you carry it in your pocket, in the back of your mind, you're fueled by it, it will ruin whatever you think is coming next in your good works. Because what fuels you is not hope. What fuels you is pain. And you don't make good decisions in pain. And we have to walk through this understanding of forgiveness. So I don't know how, I don't either, except for Scripture shows us. Because just like forgiveness changes us, unresolved forgiveness changes us as well. I'm not speaking as a man up here who has it all together. I'm speaking from a standpoint of, just as I told you, my father has not been present in my life for over 20 years, my biological father. I love my stepfather. He's my dad. I love him. He's been there every step of the way. But my biological father was not at my wedding, has not seen any of his grandkids born. He knows the boys very briefly when they were about 2 or 3 years old. That's it. That's hard to forgive. It's hard to watch my children grow up in a world where they don't know him. That's hard. And part of me wants to become everything that my dad wasn't. But guess what happens with that? My children do not understand my scars because they've never had them. So when I become the very opposite of what my dad was to them, they can't fully understand it because they don't have the same foundational pain. So sometimes I'm doing something for them thinking, well, I didn't have this, I'm going to do this for you. They don't know a world where I didn't have that. So it falls on deaf ears. I'm trying to heal my pain through my children. It never works. And instead of being what they need me to be, I've become what I think they want me to be because I never had what I needed, and so I become that instead of being what my children truly need. And see, they don't talk about this on CBS, NBC, and ABC. They don't talk about this on TikTok because it don't get the followers. They don't put this on Instagram. They just go, you want to be a better parent? Do these 4 things. And your children will blossom. Yeah, they will. They'll blossom right up and hate your guts. Yeah, that's why we can sell so many books and so many TikTok things. Everybody can have a new version because the first version didn't work. Nobody wants to talk about that. But the Bible says this when we start looking backwards. Y'all ready? Here we go. Ephesians 4:31-32 says this. Let all bitterness, wrath, anger, and clamor and slander be put away from you. Look at these words. Bitterness, wrath, anger, clamor, and slander. He said, put it away from you. You say, Phil, why are you using this morning? Because we're talking about forgiveness. Along with all malice, be kind to one another. Now, I love this word here, tenderhearted. Forgiving each other, just as Christ also has forgiven you. This morning, this is our platform text for our parents. Why? Because this is where we have to get to. Let me show you something about unresolved forgiveness. You see, you can have unresolved forgiveness and make a pretty picture on social media. You can have unresolved forgiveness and provide things for your children. You can have unresolved forgiveness and have a fairly decent marriage. You can have unresolved forgiveness and walk a long way in your life. But the problem is unresolved forgiveness is often given away by the actions in who we become. The Bible teaches us that in unresolved forgiveness, when he's telling to put something off, it's because that has put something in us. What unresolved forgiveness leads to is these words here, bitterness. You know what bitterness is? Bitterness is a shield. Bitterness is a hard coating around the heart. Bitterness is something that encrusts the other things. We say things like this, I have trust issues, or I'll never trust someone again. We hold people at arm's length and we don't let them in. We refuse to get close to anyone because we've been hurt before. We answer those questions and say, well, I'm not really bitter, I've just got some issues. Our world calls it mama issues or daddy issues, but the Bible calls it bitterness. And the reason it's called bitterness is because it acts as a shield in your heart, it's internal, that keeps people at bay. He says, listen, here's what happens when you have been injured, hurt, carry scars. The first thing is you get bitter. You push people away. And when I'm injured, I push people away. But then the second thing that happens outside of that, it comes right here, is wrath and anger. And you got to be real careful with a bitter person. And most of the time, you don't know they're bitter. They don't know they're bitter. They would call it something else, but it's bitterness. And in fact, if I challenge you, say, why are you so bitter? I'm not bitter. Yeah, you are. No, I'm not. I just got trust issues, Phil. No, hang on. That is the definition of bitterness. Oh, I thought it meant a sour taste in your mouth. It does. But the Bible tells you it happens internally. And then what happens is, pay close attention, when you have bitterness, there is a slow undertone of emotion. And you give bitterness away a couple of ways. Number one, wrath and anger. Those are both understandings of emotions that come out of you. Wrath is short and explosive. Hit stuff, throw things, do things. He's a man of wrath, right? It is explosive. Anger, on the other hand, is slow and it smolders. It's on the inside. Anger you can hide. Wrath you cannot. Wrath happens in an instant and goes away. Anger is for a lifetime. In some cases, you'd rather someone have wrath on you because it's over quickly and you see it coming, as opposed to anger. Because anger can be hidden, but it's always smoking. It's always smoldering, and you're just a little bit angry. It's why when sometimes people get frustrated or they're pushing people back or they won't talk to somebody or doing it, you can say, what are you so angry about? I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. Wrong-o. You're angry. No, I ain't. Yes. Okay. Well, the Bible says you are. It says bitterness produces wrath and anger. You see it in children. You see a child get frustrated because they're not getting what they want. You see a child in its most basic form. You take a toddler, and you take a toddler that wants a piece of candy as opposed to their mashed up peas that come in a jar. And they want it, and Mama goes, "You're not getting that candy till you eat your food." And they don't want it. They spit it out. You ever seen them do that? And then what do? Wrath. What's a baby's wrath? They throw themselves, they scream, they holler, they flail. You pick them up, they're hitting you in the head. And you're going, "I'm telling you right now, if it wasn't against the law, I'd throw you across the room." You know, all the things. It's wrath. But then that wrath, it goes somewhere. How do we see it? Watch these words: clamor and slander. You see, bitterness not only is explosive right here, right? Not only is it explosive, but what happens is then it turns into clamor and slander. You cannot keep it shut up. All of a sudden, clamor, what that means to make noise. You just start chirping to your girlfriends, to your guy friends. You start chirping. Let me tell you what's wrong with him. I'll tell you what they did to me. I'll tell you, and you just kind of chirp. It's always somebody else's fault. It's always what they did to me. We're just kind of clamoring about that person, bitter. I'm not bitter, but you can't stop talking about it. I'm not angry, but you can't stop talking about it. Why are you talking about it? Because it's inside of you, it's smoldering, and it's bitterness. But then what happens is it goes straight to slander. And what does slander do? See, a lot of us let ourselves off the hook and say, "I wouldn't slander nobody," because you think of an American definition of what slander is, and you get sued over that, and that's true too. But you know what slander is? Slander starts calling people into check in a personal manner. I'll tell you what their problem is. You know what their problem is? They're always like this. "You know what you did?" And then all of a sudden, we just start regurgitating past things. We just start throwing it out there. "You're always like that." "Oh, yeah, I bet you are." You know, all these kind of things. That becomes slander. Sometimes we do it to the person's face, and sometimes we do it to other people. And you say, where does that come from? It comes from bitterness. "You don't know how good you got it. You know what my mom and dad did to me?" Here we go. We're going down the slander path. Where's that coming from? Just a little bit of bitterness is coming up. He says you got to put it away from you. You put it away from you along with malice. Now, I want you to pay close attention, and we're going to get into this, but here's what happens. If you don't deal with bitterness, and you see this in our world all the time, my wife and I talk about this. She goes, "How can people be that way?" And here's what happens. When bitterness is not dealt with, it becomes malice. And again, you use your American definition, and that's fine, because we say malicious intent. That's something people get charged with when they harm somebody. Do you know what malice means for you in bitterness? It means this: to harm. It means this. We say things like this: "Well, now you know how I feel." You did it to me. What are you mad because I did it to you? Bitterness always, if not dealt with, unresolved forgiveness is, if not always dealt with, if it's not dealt with, it always comes to a place where the victim in turn becomes the harmer. You see it. You see where parents keep their children from their grandparents. You see where people don't make time for others. Little small hurts. They'll get over it. They know what they did to me. We don't show up, don't return the phone call, don't try to make peace. That is malicious. We are trying to induce some sort of pain on the person we say caused us pain. It's malicious. And you didn't walk in this room this morning thinking I was going to say that you're malicious. By the very definition, some of us in here are. You have done things to try to settle the score. And somehow, some way, we just sang those songs this morning, and they were beautiful. And some of us were raising malicious voices, and the whole time saying it was deserved because of what was done to you. And Jesus goes, you can't do that because it's going to affect you. You cannot be malicious towards your parents and then be loving towards your children. It won't work. Those two things don't live in the same body. You can't be bitterness this direction and be kind and loving this direction. Those two things don't work together. You can't have both. It's like the people that go in, and some of y'all live in here, are in here this morning, and I asked my wife, I heard a guy doing this the other day. I said, I don't get it. They'll go in and say, can I take your order to drink? And the guy goes, yeah, I'll take water. Another guy says, I'll take Diet Coke. And another person says, I'll take Coke. And there's always one guy that goes, I'll take half sweet tea and half not. I said, honey, does that not make the whole tea sweet? She said, yes, but it's half the calories. I said, baloney on that. There ain't no way, right? We're trying to find. You cannot have half sweet tea and half unsweet tea in the same cup and it still be unsweet and sweet. It's going to all be sweet to some degree. You can't have bitterness and love in the same body without the bitterness affecting the love. And here we are. He says, be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving each other. The path to forgiveness. Sometimes people say, how do you walk in forgiveness? I want to show you this. The path to forgiveness starts with kindness. It doesn't start with forgiveness. See, forgiveness is so hard. Forgiveness is so hard. Bitterness keeps people out of proximity. It keeps people pushed away. You can be bitter in your home, stop sleeping in the same bed, stop talking to each other, sit in different rooms. As soon as something happens that harms you, what's the first thing that most people do after the argument? They go quiet. They stop communicating. Why? Because that is bitterness pushing you away. That creates a less proximity. Sometimes you say things like this, I need to go for a walk. I got to get out and run. I need to go somewhere. You get in your car and you drive away. Why? Because bitterness is about separation. But kindness brings things together. If you want to work on forgiveness, the first place you start is by being kind. It is hard to be kind to someone and be bitter at the same time. In fact, if I had bitterness going on towards someone that I really wanted to overcome, besides praying for forgiveness and praying that God would help me, the first action that I'd put into place would just be a little kinder. Because the more I'm kind to them, it kind of takes that wall of bitterness down. Doesn't mean that I'm not protecting myself. It doesn't mean, but what I'm saying is I'm not going to let their behavior change my behavior, so I'm going to be kind. The second thing it leads to is when I'm kind is tender-hearted. This word tender-hearted is a weird word. It means compassion. It means gut compassion. It means deep down, my gut's telling me something. And it was used of Jesus when they talked about him seeing compassion on the leper and on the crowds. Tender-hearted literally means to walk in their shoes. All of a sudden, I'm trying, this morning we're talking about parents, I'm trying to forgive my dad, or I'm trying to forgive my mom, I'm trying to forgive whoever raised me, whatever it is. And that bitterness has got me not want to talk to them, look at them, be around them, go to Christmas, do whatever. I'm pushing them away. I'm not returning the text. I'm not doing any of that stuff. But then I say, I want to deal with this. And so the first way I start is kindness. Hey, I know we've not been on the best of terms. You want to grab coffee? Sure. What's this about? I just thought we might have coffee. And you have a conversation. You're just being kind. Maybe it's not that extent. Maybe you just finally return a text. But when you're kind, it brings the proximity closer. So now communication is started. And once the communication started, if I'm working on forgiveness, then what happens is God starts to change my heart into being tenderhearted and compassionate. I'm deep in my gut. Because here's what I want to find out. The very ones that I call great, my grandmother and my grandfather, are the ones that raised my mother and my father, who I have trouble out of. Something happened to them too. My dad didn't just wake up one day and decide to be an absent father. Something broke him. My dad didn't grow up one day just thinking, I'm going to be the worst in communication. Something broke inside of him. And it's easy to be angry at the behavior. It's hard to be tender towards the broken human. And all of a sudden, out of my kindness, he comes to the table. And all of a sudden, out of my kindness and God's kindness, we have coffee. And all of a sudden, over the conversation, the tender-hearted compassion allows me to put his shoes on and go look around the room and say, how did you get here, Dad? How did you get here? How can a 70-year-old man live 70 years and not enjoy his own son, who others think the world of? How can you not know 5 grandchildren that other people think are wonderful? And you look across the table and you put his shoes on and go, well, something broke him. And in that moment, I don't go, well, I accept it. That's just the way he is. I don't do that. But what I do is I take it to the next level and go, I'm going to forgive him. I'm not accepting it. I'm not signing off on it. And I'll never say it's okay. But whatever broke him on the inside, I got to let go of because he needs help. And you know what happens? It changes my mind. I'm not angry at my dad anymore. I was for a long time. You know how I feel about him? I've forgiven him. He's broken. I don't know what broke him. I'm not real sure. I wasn't around. I don't know. But I'll tell you this. My anger has turned into pity because a man has wasted his life and wasted the joy of relationships and wasted the beauty of memories and is going to go into eternity, I would imagine, sooner rather than later, and have missed a whole life of opportunity that God gave him. And you know what? I can forgive somebody like that because pity him. What a waste. Now, once I do that, then here's the deal, is God begins to reshape me. And when I can't get there from tender-hearted compassion, because if your parents have abused you, if they've neglected you in ways, it's hard to get there. I'll never have compassion. I get it. I hear you. And in that case, here's the bottom line principle, just as God in Christ also forgiven you. Listen, you can become a hypocrite in your forgiveness real quick because you can accept the forgiveness of Jesus Christ and at the same time withhold forgiveness to others. You say, well, you don't know what they did to me. I don't have to know. I know what you did to God and he forgave you. And what he calls us to do is forgive others because as you hold on to it in bitterness, it's reshaping you. You're either going to turn into them or you're going to overcorrect and really screw things up. So what do? We have to forgive mom and dad. The scars we carry from childhood due to parents will shape who we become as parents. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's true. Those scars will be projected upon our children and punished upon our parents. Our scars from what happened to us when we were little, let's pay close attention to me, we will project them on our children, meaning this. It is easier to parent thinking your children carry the same type of mindset that you do. That's false thinking. My children do not know a world with an absent father. So for me to parent them trying to correct an absent father makes zero sense. My son Malachi doesn't know what it's like to not know where his dad is and never have a conversation with him. Why would I parent from that platform? Well, why would I parent that way? Because I'm projecting their pain, my pain on them. I'm trying to heal me through parenting them. I'm giving away who they need me to be. What my kids need is not the guy that's, trying to overcome absentee father because they don't know it. What they need is someone who can be present every day and knows how to love them where they are because you know everything about them. That's a hard thing to do. I've never seen that. I'm trying to become something I didn't see. And then because of that, I'm going to turn right around and take those same scars and I am going to punish them upon my parents. It's your fault I'm the way I am. It's your fault that I ended up this mess. You all, if it done better, I wouldn't be in this situation. Oh, you know what you did. You know what you did, and now I have to care. Oh, now you want to show up. Now that you're a grandparent, you want to show up because you got no, we ain't doing that. You know what you did to me. We punish them and we project on them, and nobody ever becomes who they're supposed to be in Christ's name. That's why forgiveness is so essential. So, forgiving mom and dad is the freedom that allows us to become the parents. Now listen, when I talk about forgiving, I don't mean not everybody in here has, serial killers as parents. We're not talking about some big stuff all the time. Some of it is big stuff. But some of it's just little things that we hold bitterness about. They didn't let me, try out for the soccer team, or they didn't buy me my new first car. Those kind of little things, they stick with us. They've always been stingy, those kind of things. Those things have to be forgiven too because you'll hang on to that. It'll shape who you are. You'll overcorrect. But this is the freedom that allows us to become the parents our children need, not the parents that we become by the pain inflicted upon us. This is the foundation for which healthy parenting is built, yet the hardest of all the things that is asked for. It's hard to become something you've never seen. So this morning, here's what I want to do with the time that I have left. I want to show you the parents that shape us. Y'all ready? And these are hard. I'm not talking about the good ones. Somewhere, somehow, you're going to find this. The reason is because the parents I'm about to talk about have shaped the person that you marry. And that's a problem. Parents that shaped us, number one is this, the abandoner. This is no particular order. This parent here is an abandoner. Louis Giglio said it best when he said death, divorce, or disinterest. When we are raised by the abandoner, sometimes it happens at no fault of their own. Death takes them too soon. Now, I'm going to show you what happens to us, how it affects us, but this morning I just want to describe it, then I'll show you the effect. But the abandoner is someone who's not around. So death took them, and it reshapes who you are as a person if you lost your parents early, or even in adult age. Divorce. I'm not bagging on my divorced friends, but divorce, if we're not careful, can make a child feel abandoned. Not when parents are working together, but in some cases, one parent moves or they don't get much time. And sometimes, if we're not careful, one parent will weaponize the children against the other, thinking it's not gonna matter, but it does. And so that child grows up with an abandoned feeling or disinterest. There's people that would say, my parent abandoned me, mom or dad, but they were in the house. They were there, but they were never there, if that makes any type of sense. So I grew up without the presence of a parent or one or the other. The hooper. I made a joke this morning. I know if Tyler had saw my list, he'd say, I'm definitely a hooper, because he's thinking basketball, not the same. The hooper parent is a parent that love was given in response to jumping through the hoops. You had to earn the love. And these parents, they put out certain standards and certain things, and if you did those things and you measured up, love was given to you freely. But if you didn't hit the marks, then you didn't receive the credit or the love that was due. They would withhold the love and the credit until you met the standard. Why can't you be more like your brother? Your brother makes straight A's. What are you doing over there? That's the hooper. And the hooper all of a sudden starts making people pleasers. Oftentimes the hooper doesn't set the hoops that you have to jump through and leave them. Once you jump through one hoop, they'll move the hoop, because they're just trying to make you better. The commander. The commander is a dominant parent. They're dominant. There's no room for your own thinking. It was their way or the highway. They rule with an iron fist. Everybody was afraid to do anything because they were in control, and you did not go against the commander. It could be a mom or a dad. It could be both. Normally not. Because anything with two heads normally either put in a case or kill it. The punisher. Punisher. Woof. This dude or lady, and sometimes I think we see a word like punisher and think that it's always men. I'm telling you right now, there's some women out there that are absolutely sick in their punishment of their children. The punisher, mistakes were met with harsh and sometimes violent punishment. If you didn't do what you were supposed to do, you were met with physical, mental, or emotional pain. You were punished. And these punisher parents are going to beat it out of you. They're going to get the behavior one way or another. It's just, how long do you want to be in pain, son? I could be here all day. The screamer. I mentioned the screamer last week, but the screamer, and that's a real bad word because sometimes they don't scream, but you'll see the screamer is the tone in the house was loud, yelling, hard words, harsh, cutting words. Sometimes the screamer is not real loud, but they use the cutting words. You had to be careful with the screamer, because the screamer, anything you asked, anything you said was met with a loud tone back at you. The screamer parent grows up one day and wonders why their kids won't talk to them. It's because we couldn't. Anytime we ever tried to talk to you, you always were fussing at us. Or saying we wouldn't amount to anything, or we're worthless. The saint. The saint parent uses Jesus in the Bible as a weapon. They weaponize spirituality in order to manipulate behavior. They take Jesus and they take the principles, and in their own mind, it makes sense because I'm just trying to give my kids Jesus. But from an early age, they ask things like this: do you think Jesus would be proud of you? You are not to do that. You know what the Bible says? And it isn't a disciple program in your children, it's weapons. The freezer. The freezer is one who doesn't know how to show love. Love was assumed in the home, but not physically or verbally shown. You would say this if you had a freezer parent: I know they love me, they just didn't say it. I know they love me, but we weren't real touchy-feely. Nobody hugged in my family. They were freezers. Love was assumed, but not shown. The bubble wrap parent. Bubble wrap parents are suffocating. They mean well, but they will squeeze the life out of you. You never had time to figure out who you were because they were already there, always there. They didn't want you to fall down, make a mistake, or anything. You were wrapped in bubble wrap. The hippie. I don't know if I should have used that word, but I did. The hippie parent is one that just kind of treats their kids like they'll figure it out. There's no boundaries. And these children turn into kind of free-range children. They go wherever, they do whatever, and we don't want to, get into their privacy too much. They'll figure it out. There's no basics, any understanding of boundaries. We just kind of let them figure it out on their own because at the end of the day, it's all about whatever makes them happy. The big kid parent doesn't know how to parent, so they just become the older brother or sister in the house. And so you grew up with someone that was more like a brother or sister rather than a mom or a dad. The realist parents kill dreams. Dreams are silly. When a little boy or a little girl wants to grow up and they want to be an artist or they want to be a musician, the realist goes, son, that's not how this works. You don't work like that. This work will break you down. You need to get to work. As soon as you graduate, you get to work, son. If you're not willing to work, you're not willing to do anything. And the realist kills dreams in their kids. You're only allowed to work within a realistic framework. That's the only way you make it at home. And that's just what you do. You don't question it. You just do what we've always done. And I come from a long line of these types of people, and that's just what you do. Did you ever want to do anything else? Yeah, but I'll do that when I retire. They killed the dream early. The pillow top. Pillow tops are nice, aren't they? You ever got a pillow top mattress? You lay down on that thing, it just says, you just sink into it. Pillow top parents everything's conformed to you. They are going to mold their parenting, their home, their future, their finances all around you. Whatever little Johnny wants, we'll chase him all around everywhere. Whatever he wants, it's about his comforts and his desires. You turn over the home and the leadership of the home to little Johnny because it's all about him. You're the pillow top. You just he sinks right into you and you just conform. The sickness parent, and this is a hard one. And we see it a lot around our area, but the sickness is drugs and alcohol, relationships, addictions. These addictions and these sicknesses trap the parent. And we understand in those relationships, our moms and dads, they chose something over us. They were sick. And as we've grown up and as they've grown up and they've battled trying to get in and out of it and trying to work out, they've told you they were sorry, but I'm still mad at them because they chose something. And now that I'm a parent, I can't imagine choosing anything over my kids like you did over me. The manipulator. The manipulator is more prevalent than you know. It's the guilt parent. There's so much guilt strapped on that child. And guilt was leveraged to get the desired outcome. Mom or dad, they manipulate. It's in the words. Oh, you're not going to come see your dad today? Oh, okay, well, I guess I'll call you brother. He loves me. Oh, you had time for everybody else. What about me? I can't believe you'd do that. How would you embarrass me? We heap guilt on our children's, and all the behavior was manipulated until it wasn't. Obviously, there are good parental traits, but these are the ones that we're looking at this morning. And most of us can find ourselves in there. Most of us can find one or two, depending on who raised us. And sometimes they change over time, but most of us have been affected. These parenting styles shape the kind of parents we become, either falling in line and becoming the very thing we hated, or overreacting and becoming something we have never seen but think will fix our scars in our children. The hardest thing to do is if you're raised by a manipulator and a punisher is to all of a sudden become a communicator who loves their children where they are and disciplined in your disciplined approach. You've never seen it, and so you're trying to become something that you've never seen. It's so hard. And the easiest thing to do in our lives, and listen to me, I want you to pay close attention to me. You don't have to like this, you don't have to like the message, but it's true. If we're not real careful, you will fight it and fight it and fight it, and you will try and try and try to be different, but you're trying to be something you haven't seen. Maybe you saw it in somebody else's parents, you've seen it somewhere else, you try. But when going gets tough, you will fall back on the very thing that shaped you in the first place. That's how we end up looking like our moms and dads, even though we hated them when they were doing it. So what's the effect? The abandoner? This person who was raised by the abandoner, we either put up walls and refuse to get close. We're hard to get emotionally. We're not there. Emotionally, we're good people. We're there, but we do not emotionally step across that boundary because we don't want to lose you either. It makes it hard to connect with your children. It makes it hard to connect with your spouse. Some of you have married abandoners, children, and they are hard to emotionally connect to. They do things like this. If you start to get emotional, start to cry, they're like, please don't cry, please don't cry. What do I need to do? They just want to stop it because emotional, they cut that off. Or they go the complete opposite direction and they become clingy. Their children mean everything to them. They know what it means to not have a parent, so they're going to be present, and all of a sudden they're clingy. They're all in their life, and little Jimmy can't go nowhere without Dad. He's always there. I love my children, and because I come from an abandoner, check this out. I've got 4 boys and a daughter, and my daughter I love very much. My boys I love very much. I'll use my daughter this morning. I picked on Maverick in the first service, but I'll pick on her the second service just because. My daughter does not know what it's like to have an abandonment parent. She does not know. But if I decide as a dad, because of the scars that I had, I'm going to show my daughter what it's like to have a present parent. Anything Mahalo wants to do, I'm there. Anywhere she goes, I'm like, I'm riding with you. When she goes to pick out her new softball stuff, I'm right there. I'm taking pictures. I'm all this. I'm all that. I'm asking all the questions. I've become clingy because I want her to know that I'm here. And she goes, "Whew, you're killing me." Well, what do you mean? You're always there, Dad. I know, but aren't you glad you got a dad that cares? I knew you cared at the dinner table. We didn't have to get in my car. Now, I just want you to know I'm here, honey. All of a sudden, she becomes the thing that I cling to, and I become codependent upon her. You see this sometimes with moms and dads. You see moms grow up and they've given birth to a daughter, but that daughter is not their daughter very long before she becomes a best friend. And you go, that's kind of weird. Bet there was an abandonment at home. They become codependent. The Hooper. Well, the Hooper, if you're raised by Hoopers, you end up forcing your kids to earn our love as well, because that's what we had to do, and we know how to do that. And so we are going to just make our kids better like we were. We know how it works, but you know what? You're going to be all right. I met all the expectations. I got me a job. I got through college. I met all the things. Look at me. I'm successful. So I just give that right back to my kids. Or we minimize bad behavior in our kids, fearing that they won't know we love them. When you have had to earn love, sometimes when you come to trying to give love, you will minimize bad behavior because it's more important to me my kid knows that they are loved by me than they know that they can't do that. So I overcome my earned love by giving it freely despite what my children are doing, even though I'm making them worse. The commander, we become a warden in our own home, dictating every action. You become a control freak. There's men and women within the sound of my voice that are here this morning and watching online. You have become a warden in your house. Nobody wants to talk to you about it. Everybody just waits on you because you are going to rule, and it's going to be about control. You know why? You want control in your house because you never had any in his. And everything that you ever learned that you hated him, you couldn't talk to him, it was going to be his way or the highway, now you're the same. But it's different because you love your kids. But no, it's not different. You've become the very thing that you hate. Or we let the kids run the house in fear of sounding like our mom or our dad. It becomes a zoo in there because nobody's in charge, because I ain't going to repeat that behavior. The punisher. We become an extreme punisher, just like our dad did, our mom did. You can see the punisher kids oftentimes because they're bullies in schools. Oh, you didn't like me saying that? They're bullies. I can tell if you're a punisher parent by the way your kid treats my kid. You are a punisher parent at home, and you are extreme and mean. And guess what little Johnny does? He goes to school and he finds someone to enact all the anger he has out on them, just like he's getting at home. In most cases, if you find you a bully in school, I'm talking about a mean one. I'm not talking about somebody who just has weird stuff that they say. I'm talking about a mean one. You can almost always draw a straight line to the front door of that house. And the real bully's inside. You know, the problem with that is these punishers, then they get in positions. You got punishers who become teachers, and they're mean. You got punishers that become pastors, and they're hateful. You got punishers that work with you. There is no empathy whatsoever. And you wonder where it came from. It came from inside their four walls when they were growing up. Or we remove all discipline because we know the pain of extreme discipline and trauma. Because of my trauma, I will not put that on my kids, and so we just let them run rampant. The screamer. We become the tone setter through our harsh, loud words. I'm going to tell you this. The screamer is one of the hardest things to correct. And the reason that is because the screamer has a mixed up view of communication. Communication was always screaming or words or tones. Hey, listen, we just grew up. You have to have thick skin in my family. If you don't have thick skin, you won't make it. So you're sharp with your words. You say things. Not everybody was raised like you, pal. And here's what happens. Here's what makes it so difficult. If you were raised by a screamer, you're going to swear. Your house is going to be peaceful. You're approachable, and you're going to try, and you're going to talk better, and you're going to try to communicate with your kids, and you're going to try to do this and try to talk. But what you didn't realize is you gave birth to some wild animals that don't behave just the way you tell them all the time. And all of a sudden, they're going to push your buttons, and the next thing you know, you're going to be standing in your house trying to turn over a new leaf and not be like your mother, and now you can't control them, and you've become the same way. Sorry, I didn't mean to lose my temper, is what you'll say. You fell right back into her footsteps. The saint. Well, we either use Jesus against our kids and project a better than others saintly outlook, and you can see this. You can see it. There's some people that they're the saints, and so they beat their kids with Jesus. They grow up and beat other people with Jesus. Or we never talk about religion or Jesus or spiritual things because it was used in our home as a weapon. The freezer. We too become cold or withhold tangible love, or we are so loving that it's weird. Sometimes to outdo our freezer parents, we try to learn how to. If you didn't grow up learning how to show tangible love, when you start to try to show tangible love, you're weird. Because you overdo it, right? You overdo it. You're just trying to accommodate. The bubble wrap, you suffocate your children too by squeezing too hard on them. They can never be out of your sight. You're just like mom. Or you seem distant because you withhold in fear of being accused of hovering. And so you went the opposite direction and said, nope, that's none of my business. I want to show them privacy. They can do their thing, because you're trying to overcome the scars of bubble wrap parents in you. The hippie. You let your children wander till they find it. Whatever makes them happy, you just let them figure it out. Or you set strict boundaries to keep them from running off, because you were always wondering, you know what you got into. You come back and set a perimeter around your own children that is also suffocating, and they don't understand it. The big kid, if you're raised by the big kid, the chances are you jump right in and become the older brother or sister to your child, or you refuse to play and interact because someone has to be the parent. Because you hold your family, or you lived through that, you don't offer it to your son. Your son just says, hey, can we go play ball? I don't want to right now. I ain't doing that right now. Why? Because somebody's got to be the parent. The realist. You minimize the creativity and dreams of your own children. They need to go to school, get a degree, get to work. It's what you do. Or you embrace and promote fictional ideas to the detriment of your own children. You go, well, they killed my dreams, and now we're breathing life into fictional fantasies for our children rather than having the boundaries to go, now that's a good idea. The pillow top, you exist to make your child happy. Whatever they want, they get because it's all about them and their happiness. Or you become tough and give out good things scarcely. You say, nope, it ruined me. They were giving me something all the time. They gave their house away to me. So I'm telling you, my kids, they'll get stuff, but by George, they're going to have to earn it. And it's very slow doses trying to correct what was done to you. The sick parent, I want you to hear me about the sick parent, and we're going to wrap this thing up. The sick parent, be very careful because they're contagious. There's a reason that there's an epidemic of people who become addicted to alcohol and drugs, and their children become addicted to alcohol and drugs too. You can fight it for a while, but they're contagious. So sometimes you catch what's plagued your parents because it can be contagious. You know, sometimes a sick parent can hide in plain sight too. And what you think you're doing privately, oh goodness, your child will do in addiction. You think you're moderate, but there'll be nothing holding them back. They'll catch it. Or you become hard and fearful of anything that could take them from you. Your son or daughter can have major surgery, and you're not going to let them have pain medicine because they're not going to become like their grandparent. It's like, come on, dude. Nope, we're not doing that. The manipulator, you become a better, more refined manipulator. I'll tell you the thing about having a manipulator parent is that manipulator parent not only trains that child, but that child is so used to working with manipulation, they learn how to manipulate without all the outward signs that their mom or dad used. So you become a better version of it. Or you put up with anything because you don't want anyone to feel an ounce of guilt. So the manipulator flips and it's like, I don't want to address anything because I don't want anybody to feel the guilt that I felt. Or they become perfected in manipulating others. So how do we overcome these blueprints and pre-programs? See, here's the problem. I want you to see this. And then we'll have JT come out in just a moment. The problem is this morning is I have this room full of manipulators, abandoners, big kids, punishers, and so on. You're in here. You were raised by them, and now you have in some ways become them, in other ways tried to overcome them. You see, this is what happens in our marriages, and then the next thing you know, we have manipulators marrying punishers, and it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem because all of a sudden, the way my wife was raised and what she experienced and the way I was raised and what I experienced bump into each other. Not only that, but then it bleeds into the other parts of our marriages. You see, because all of a sudden we have problems with our in-laws. We have problems with our father-in-laws, or our mother-in-laws, or our daughter-in-laws, or our son-in-laws. All of a sudden, the way I was raised and what I'm willing to put up with, my wife, because of the way she was raised, she goes, I'm not putting up with that. Your mama thinks she's going to talk to us that way. We're not putting up with that because all of a sudden a manipulator has met a punisher. You see, let me use Phillip and Mandy for an example. This is not true, but I'm just making this up because I know we won't get mad at me. But let's say I was raised by a manipulator. My mom was not a manipulator. But let's say I was raised by one. And I'm a mama's boy, and I lived my whole life growing up trying to make sure mama was okay because I love her so much. And she was there, and, you know, she could correct my behavior or get me to do something by just throwing a little manipulation at me. Honey, will you take care of this? Oh, Mom, I ain't got time. Well, your brother didn't have time either. Should I just call the neighbor? No, Mom, I'll be right there. All of a sudden, our whole relationship is Mom talking to me, and although we're close, a mama's boy, she has manipulated me. And then I meet Mandy. And I love Mandy, and we start to talk, and we start to date, and while we're dating and courting, she tells me where she comes from, and I tell her where I come from. Then we start eating at my parents' home. We start eating at her parents' home. I start picking up on her parents. She starts picking up on my parents. And then when I leave one day, and she goes, are you really going to go back tonight after you drop me off and take the trash off for your mom? I go, yeah, that's just what she wants me to do. Does she always do that to you? Well, normally my brother won't do it, and if I don't do it, she'll just have to call the neighbor. Really? Yeah. So she starts to pick up on some clues and starts to see it, but then all of a sudden I'm around her and I see that her dad he's mean. And he's mean. I don't like the way he talks to her. And I talk to her about it, and she says, well, you know, here's the deal. He's just always been hateful. I go, has he? Yeah, he's just always been that way. You know, my mom's, we just learned to live with it. And I go, Mandy, he's not hateful. He's mean. That's a mean dude. He's got a mean spirit. No, that's my dad. Just like, love him or don't. I mean, that's just the way he is. And then we just keep talking, getting knowing each other. And all of a sudden, you got a manipulator child and you have a punisher child, and they decide to get married. All of a sudden they exchange rings and last names, and the two shall become one. And everything was good for a while because the Punisher child could go into the manipulator home and keep her mouth shut because she was just visiting and didn't know how this was going to work out. And the manipulator son could go in the Punisher's household and keep his mouth shut because he's just a young kid and he doesn't know much. But now they're husband and wife. We go to my mom's for Sunday lunch and we start to leave, and I go, let me get home, we'll put the kids down, and I'm going to go back and take care of Mom's trash. And she goes, no, you're not. Yeah, I am. No, you're not. We've got trash too. I know, but it's just Mom. No, we're not doing that. Your brother can do it. My brother won't do it. Well, somebody needs to tell him he needs to. It's my mom. I know it's your mother, Phillip, but we're not doing that. You see, all of a sudden the Punisher comes out, and guess what she does? She hopscotches her husband and goes dead at the mom. Because she wasn't raised by a manipulator, and you're not going to manipulate her. She's going to tell you what's up. And not only with that, she was fine-tuned by punishment. You ain't going to scare her. And if Big Mama wants some, right here she is. And the next thing you know, we don't get invited to Christmas. Because Mama says, I don't know what to do with her, and I don't want to offend her, so y'all just don't come over this time. And then she comes in and she goes, we're not invited to Christmas. I go, no. Yeah, we're not doing Christmas this year. They canceled it all around the world. We're not doing it. It's crazy. We'll do it for our kids, but you know, those things. And all of a sudden, cracks in our marriage begin to take shape because of the way we were raised. And I'm sitting in her house at Thanksgiving, and her dad looks across and says, that is the worst sweet potato casserole I've ever heard, ever eaten. And I slide my chair back and I pop up and I say, that's the last time you're going to talk to my wife that way. And he goes, I'll talk to your wife however I want to. That's my daughter, and now she's my wife. We are one. You won't ever talk to her that way. In fact, I've watched you talk to her that way for 20 years. You're not going to do that anymore. And he goes, won't you get out of my house? And I say, I'll be glad, and I'm taking my wife and my grandkids with me. And don't you ever expect to see them again, but we're not going to be talked to that way. And we get in the car, and she goes, I can't believe you did that. Why did you say that to him? It's about time somebody says something to him, and we're not going to be that. But that's my dad. You know what he'll do? I don't care what he does. He ain't going to see these kids no more. And the next thing you know, I'm sitting in my bedroom, and we're talking about whether we need to be married or not. They don't tell you that on TikTok. What? You mean IG didn't show you that? But Jesus does. And Jesus has shown us that what was poured into us comes out in us, and that's why a lot of us in here are struggling in our marriage. So how do we forgive? Come on, JT. There's a story about forgiveness that I want to take and show you this morning on our way out. About a man named Joseph. Y'all know Joseph? You see, if we're going to deal with bitterness and put it all away, and we're going to become the parents that God wants us to be, we're going to have to learn how to forgive, but forgiveness is hard. But forgiveness is about perspective. There's a young man named Joseph, and he was his daddy's favorite son. And in fact, his dad made him a multicolored robe. And he went and saw his brothers. He had 11 brothers. He went and saw his brothers, and he was talking about this and that and having dreams. And his brothers decided they were going to kill him. And this is a Cliff Notes version. You can go read it in Genesis, starting in chapter 35, rolling on, 37. So they decided they're going to kill Joseph. And if you know the story, you know where we're headed. But here's what happens. They don't kill him because Reuben says don't kill him. Reuben was going to just steal him and take him back home. But what they do is they throw him in a pit and they sell him to some people headed to Egypt. So Joseph now has been stolen and sold into trafficking and headed to Egypt. His father is at home crushed, thinking that his son has died because the brothers came back and said a wild animal has eaten him. He's dead. For the next 13 years, he's 17 when he gets put in a pit, and for 13 years he spends his life in a jail cell as a slave, and then ultimately makes it to the palace. He's sold to a man by the name of Potiphar and runs Potiphar's house until Potiphar's wife is so enamored with him, she makes up a story, gets him accused, throws him in jail. While he's in jail, he meets a cupbearer and a baker. They have dreams, he interprets them, and all of a sudden the dreams come true. He told the baker he's going to die in 3 days. He did. He was hung by Pharaoh. And he tells the cupbearer, you're going back to the throne. Remember me. Well, the cupbearer forgets until Pharaoh has 2 dreams and he can't remember them. One's about fatted calves and one's about skinny ones. And he's asking for somebody to interpret the dreams. And the cupbearer says, there's a guy in jail. His name's Joseph, a little Hebrew boy. If you'll go get him, he can interpret your dreams. And so he comes out of jail, about 30 years old. 13 years have been taken from him. 13 years have been consequences of his brothers harming him. 13 years of scars, 13 years of no family, 13 years of isolation. He walks out, he interprets a dream, and the Pharaoh says, you're the wisest to run my kingdom during this famine that's coming. You are going to be second in command. There's no one greater than you in this kingdom except me. And the only thing that I won't give you is the throne. Other than that, you're fully in charge. Well, the famine hits his family's place. And his dad sends his brothers to go buy food from Pharaoh. And when they get there, they run into Joseph, the brother they intended to kill. The brothers don't know it's him, and Joseph is hiding behind a screen. And he sees his brothers, and he's moved to tears. And the Bible tells us multiple times he hides and he weeps. And he's put into a place to where they don't know him, but he knows them. And it would have been a fantastic time to go, how do you like me now? Kill him. I've been thinking for 13 years how I'd get you back. In his bitterness with malice, he could have found out where his dad was, where his younger brother Benjamin was, and then he could have killed everyone that took part in punishing him and hurting him for 13 years, and yet he doesn't. And all of a sudden, his brothers are standing before him, and Joseph reveals himself to them. And they're so afraid they're going to pay the price of what they did to him. They're afraid to approach him. And yet Joseph forgives them. Joseph forgives the very one that stole his youth, stole his childhood, stole his father, stole his inheritance, stole everything. He forgave them. How is that? How do we forgive? How do we forgive the moms and dads that hurt us, left us with scars? How do we forgive the ones that just left us with bruises and scars, and now that we're parents, want to have a relationship with their grandchildren? How do we forgive when now we have power to inflict the pain back on you? That's what we want to do. Don't you look at me so holy. That's what we want to do. Every chance we get, we double down because that pain. What do you expect? That's what you did to me. The very ones that's going to worship Jesus in a moment and just did it a few minutes ago will even a score, lickety split. They'll meet past injuries with today's hardness. Withhold forgiveness. Thinking that you're okay. You're not okay. You are not okay. If that's your stance, listen to me. You are not okay. Well, I'm put together. You know you're not. I'm successful. Yeah, maybe on paper. You are a wreck. I don't like that you said that to me. Well, get over it. Because it's true. You cannot have loving kindness and bitterness live in the same body. It won't happen. Well, I'm good to my kids. Yeah, but you're still fueled by bitterness. You're trying to prove something. We got you. So how do we do what Joseph did? Because Joseph took care of his brothers. He welcomed them. He fed them. He moved them close to him. What happened? Well, number one is this. The victim, the judge, and the preserver of life. I want you to pay close attention. When forgiving mom and dad, perspective is key. Who you are now is shaped by them. But who you become is shaped by God. Some of us have the first part down pat, but we haven't let the second part take hold. Who you are now was shaped by them. Yes, that temper you got shaped by them. Those words, yes. That unjust punishment, yes. That clinginess, yes. That walls, yes. It was shaped by them. But who you become is shaped by God. Some of the hardest conversations I have with people, men and women alike, is when I stop them in their tracks and go, this is not who you are. And I challenge them on who they are now because I can see who they can become. And they get mad because most people want you to accept who they have become by the shaping of their parents rather than help them become who God wants them to be. Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? But his brothers could not answer him. They were scared to death, for they were dismayed at his presence. Then Joseph said to his brothers, please come closer to me. Can you imagine them going, don't do it? He's going to kill us. And they came closer to him, and he said, I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. This is the hardest moment when offering forgiveness and accepting it is when the truth is shared. This is the moment when it all hits the fan. I want you to know I'm forgiving you right now, Dad, because you left when I was young. I needed you. And if you're on the receiving end of that, you don't know. I know. When you confront that person that you're forgiving with what was done to you, the scar that you carry, that's the heavy place. And this is the place where you have a decision to make. When you finally are at a place for justice, this is the chance for the judge to punish. You could say, whom you sold into Egypt, who you walked off and left, who you divorced and went to another state, who you punished excessively. And by George, I don't want anything to do with you. Leave me alone. And you're justified in your own pain to do that. You are definitely justified to do that. Or you can forgive as Christ forgave us. And Joseph did. He said, now do not be grieved or angry. You can see them. We're sorry. We didn't mean to. We were young too. You were 17. We were just 19. What did we know? We were young. My mother made a statement. It's Friday. She was doing the devotion for the teachers before I spoke it. I've heard her say this before, and it just hit me different, I guess because I knew what I was preaching on. But my mother said, Phillip's my son. He's pastor of the church. We grew up together. My mom was young when she had me. I didn't know her as my kids know her today. She was not refined. She made mistakes. She was learning. And I have every reason, if I wanted, to be mad at her now for what she did when I was young. And Joseph goes, don't be greedy. Stop. Because you sold me here. And don't be angry that you sold me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life. For the famine has been in the land for these 2 years and there's still famine. Here's what he did. Forgiving because God was with me when you were at your worst. I know, listen to me, one of the greatest ways to forgive and one of the greatest perspectives is this. I'm forgiving you because, listen, Mom, God was still with me when you were at your worst with me. I can forgive you because even, Dad, even when you were at your worst, God never left me. Joseph said, you sold me. You did. You threw me in the pit. They sold me. I went to Potiphar's house. Then I was accused of all. At your worst, Reuben, at your worst, he never left me. So I can forgive. And what you did to me was bad, but God had a plan that was so much greater. You know how I ended up in the palace? Because you jokers are awful people. That's how. And God had a plan. God sent me before you to preserve you from for a remnant in the earth and keep you alive by great deliverance. Now, therefore, it was not you who sent me here. Not you, but God. He has made me a father to Pharaoh and Lord of the household, ruler of the... Listen to this. Resentment. Oh, this is so good. You better quote me. Resentment and bitterness can be burned away when perspective is how God used scars to place you where you needed to be. I needed to be here. I needed to be in this palace. I carry a scar that led me to this palace. Listen, how am I going to be bitter forever? Because you did what was wrong, but it got me to where what was right. And God used my scars to place me where I needed to be. Listen to me, man. Listen to me, woman. I'm about to be finished, but listen to me. Where you are right now, those scars meant something. They got you there. You wouldn't have taken that road on your own. You didn't ask for that, but God used that road to get you exactly where you needed to be. And if we understand that God used the misdeeds of others and the scars that I carry to get me where I needed to be, then I trust Him with the future and I can let go of the past. Forgiveness becomes powerful when perspective shifts. Oh, this is so good. Perspectives are often shaped by what could have been rather than what opportunities have come. Most of the time, my bitterness is about what could have been. He could have been here. He could have known his grand. But what opportunities have come. Not what could have been, but what did happen. The good things that have happened. And Joseph said to them, do not be afraid, for I am in God's place. What you meant for evil, God meant for good. Had you not been as... Oh, gosh. Hey, Dad, had you not been as bad as you were, I wouldn't be as good as I am. Woo! Had you not been as awful as you were, had you not left me, had you not abandoned me, had you not been there at Christmas, had you not done that, had you not been at all the births, had you not been there, I wouldn't be the father that I am today. In your bad behavior, you made me good. God used your misbehavior to make me better, and then here's this. Forgiveness allows me to become the person you should have been the whole time to me. One of the greatest things that forgiveness does is it allows you to become the person that you wish they had been. I don't need you to be that anymore. I'm actually becoming that person for somebody else. You see what Joseph says to him, he says, because you did what you did, it put me here. And here's what he says in his words. He said, I'm going to move you and your children and your children's children close to me. And you and your children and your children's children and my father and my brothers will always be fed by this kingdom. And had you been the brothers to me as the younger brother, you would have protected me and kept me close. But because you weren't what you were supposed to be to me, I get the opportunity through forgiveness to be exactly what they need me to be for them. And Dad, because you left me, I am now a present dad for my children. Mom, because you screamed all the time, now I have a better communication with my children. Dad, because you were an excessive punisher, I have become a loving, caring daughter. And because you weren't there, I am there. And I just want you to know I'm forgiving you because seeing you the way you were has allowed me to become exactly who God wanted and intended me to be. I am going to be for them what you couldn't be for me. Jesus, I love you. I thank you so much this morning for your word. I thank you for the moms and dads. I thank you for the kiddos. I thank you for those that are growing up and trying to raise kids, those that are trying to forgive mom and dad, those that are working through things. This morning, I pray that we would become exactly everything that you desired me to be. And sometimes the enemy wants us to think that the misbehavior and bad behaviors of others is going to destroy us. But Jesus, the truth is their bad behavior allows me to become better by trusting you and you refining me. We love you. Would you meet us in this place? In Jesus' name, amen. Let's stand, let's sing for a moment of invitation.